Getting hit multiple times coming out of that bike section. More drivers coming to blows. Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back here to Slow Motion Broadcasting, and welcome back to the Formula V Weekend Warriors. This is round number 9 of this season, coming to you today from Lédenon. My name is Ron Maunz, and alongside me, working the comms and the cams, is Joshua Wilkie. Unfortunately, the rain, I think, got into Discord's audio because it didn't really want to work for a couple of moments for the both of us, but we are here at Lédenon for what is going to be a very challenging race. Off the back of the rather normal events and taking part of it at VIR last week, we head to Lédenon, which is usually pretty tricky here for these Formula V's, Josh, but when you throw rain in the midst, it's even more of a terrifying prospect.
Yeah, it absolutely is for sure, and we are having a little bit of audio issues here, the new Windows update rearing its head for us, and we're just going to fix that up real quickly here. But yeah, the rain here at Lédenon, not going to be an easy one today for sure. This track's, not easy on a good day, let alone when it's raining this hard. So it's going to be a difficult one. This is a pretty technical track. There's a few areas out there that are very difficult for sure, especially kind of nearing the end of the course. It kind of just gets harder as it goes along there. It's going to be hard hitting the brakes coming downhill on a few of these spots and everything as well. So it should be an interesting one out there today. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be a race that goes down in the history books as either some of the best for some of these racers or maybe the most infuriating for some of these competitors as well. You can never really tell what you're going to get. I think it was a quote from Forrest Gump. He said, "Life is like a box of chocolates." Racing can be a box of chocolates too. Sometimes it's fantastic and very delicious. Other times you may have a slight allergic reaction to what's ever in that box. However, we've got a good race in store for us, I believe. Got a pretty stacked field of racers, and early on in this qualifying session, top of the pole, Mr. Guido Marzucchi off the back of his first ever Formula V Weekend Warriors overall race win 1 week ago at VIR. He had actually won in Spec 1 way back, probably about a year ago, a year and some change maybe. I think it was probably at the start of this year, back in Season 1, when he won the rather hectic race at Thruxton that we haven't seen back on the calendar since. But Guido, the Prince of Virgins, able to get the job done there at VIR, as it took me quite a long time to figure out that was actually the spawning in of that joke. But hey, I never reported to be a very bright individual, and I will continue to say that if you look at me for moral wisdom and sort of intellect, you're looking at the wrong guy. I just run my math about race cars driving around on the screen that's in front of my face. The Guido Marzucchi running very good, currently about 0.6 of a second over Felix Samoa, slotted in P2. Nice to see Michelle Lynn slotted up in third. I will make no further mention, though, because that's usually when the commentators' jinx come down on her, but nice to see her out there on the racetrack in third.
Yeah, absolutely. And Guido on a bit of a hot streak lately for sure. He had a bit of a boil over moment there with another driver at the last race we did. I believe it was the RESCR race there at Road Atlanta. Got a little bit spicy there for sure, but really good racing up until that point. And I think honestly they just kind of tripped over each other there in the moment. But yeah, and Michelle Lynn out here as well, running good, and now in P3 with a 148.312. Masters driver Alan DeGassis just behind her, first Masters driver of the crew today. Just behind that, we got Joshua Justice also doing really well in the RSCR races the other night. They're falling victim to some bad luck in the FF race, but was able to take the victory there in the V race. Chris Montgomery right behind him, Andrew Love, Jim Brewster, and then our sponsor today, Brian Straczynski, actually in 9th place there. If you're going to thank him, I believe there's a bit of an ad read there we can do for him. Roxanne Headers for the V's, I believe. I'll let you get to that later, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one here today. It's going to be interesting. We haven't had too many rain races, I think, probably because some of the drivers don't like them, but it should add a bit of an element today for sure. Some curbs to miss, a few things, few extra things out there to worry about for sure.
Yeah, this track is very tricky. It was actually the host of the first Formula Ford weekend. Actually, no, it was the second. It was the first Spec Racer Ford Weekend Warriors race here on SMB. See, I would have known that by heart, but I've also blanked out most of 2024 from my memory, and I'm pretty sure I was also at Hershey Park on the first weekend of action that we saw here on SMB for the Weekend Warriors after leaving the other place. But this track is rather fascinating. Have seen it be used a decent amount over the years in the Formula Vs, but outside of that, doesn't get a lot of love on iRacing. It's a tough cookie to crack, this track. Can't really have any sort of mistakes, because even though though you do have a lot of asphalt runoff area and some rather big gravel traps, which running off the track in a Formula V into a gravel trap, that will stop you about as quickly as a brick wall would. Still pretty rough if you do go off the track here, so these competitors will have to stay on the island as much as they can. And on the many turns around this racetrack, that will be a lot easier said than done, as Josh Justice going to jump up to third here in this qualifying session right in the final few moments, approaching the final 5 minutes of this session. And as Josh said, the sponsor of today's broadcast is Brian Szynski. You can see his car up in the top right corner right now. That is a darn good looking race car. But the looks are one thing, the mechanics are another. If you want some good parts for your Formula V, how about you head off to formulav.com. That's the number 4, MULAV.com, VEE. They're also the home of Roxanne Headers, located in central Illinois. We'd like to thank Brian Szynski, Roxanne Headers, and formulav.com for making this broadcast of the Formula V Weekend Warriors possible. And with that being said, let's talk about the fact that we've got all Szynski row number 5 right now with Dan in front of Brian.
Yeah, the brothers back-to-back there for sure. So hopefully that won't boil over a little bit too much or later on in the race here. And you're right, this place definitely pretty difficult. Don't see it quite as often as some other tracks. I've raced here a few times. I like it around here. The technical bits and stuff are pretty fun. Yeah, I think it's a pretty good track. That last corner we just saw him go through there, one of the most important ones and hard to get right, coming down the hill. It's got everything kind of working against you there. You're coming down the hill. It's off camber a little bit. There's a curb, and then the exit is uphill and a little off camber, and the whole thing's just a bit of a pain in the butt. And you really need to get it right, because it's definitely the longest straightaway into probably some of the best passing opportunity on the track as well. There's a few more passing opportunities around here, which is probably also why I like it. You know, you can dive one up the inside here. There's another passing opportunity coming up here in this left-hander. Some of them maybe, you know, not the best spots to do it, but you can get them done, and I think we're going to see a lot of it here today as well.
Yeah, this is going to be a rather unique day behind the wheel for these competitors. This is a tough track, and very odd on the configuration of the circuit. Many turns, not a lot of straightaways. Even the start-finish straightaway has some bends in the road, and it being a French track, I am not even going to bother pronouncing some of the corner names around this track. I mean, Josh, you are Canadian, albeit on the other side of Canada from Quebec. I think you'd have a better shot of pronouncing the corner names than I would.
Yeah, maybe not so much. France French, Canada French. They're almost the same, but not really quite the same. As well as I don't really know to speak much French. Different parts of Canada here kind of focus on it a little bit more than others. I happen to be in British Columbia, where we just don't focus on it quite as much here. Not to say, you know, lots of French Canadians out here, as we see a massive crash there from Jason Grider. I believe he was up into the garage, maybe even right around the second floor windows there. That was yeah, that was impressive, actually.
Man, imagine being a race control person in the paddock building here at Circuit de Lédenon. You just see a Formula V blow your windows off. That I'm pretty sure there's a very similar scene to that in the original Top Gun movie, but it was with an F-18 instead of a Formula V. I guess the first letter is still the same, but let's take a look at this from Jason Grider's perspective. Because you can see the step-ups in the garage. That's a launching pad. Yeah. Bang!
Oh! Yeah, you're right. He did go into a bit of a flat spin there, but I have to correct you. It's not an F-18. It was an F-14. F-14 Tomcat. I'm a military base kid. Grew up on an Air Force base, so you can't get that stuff wrong around me.
See, I was briefly considering going down the route of being a pilot and then being an aircraft mechanic. Who knows, if I somehow grenade all this broadcasting stuff for myself, I'll still probably end up going down the route of aviation maintenance. However, I'm not planning on doing that, as I somehow develop a New York accent out of nowhere. Yeah, that we do. That's looking right now across the line here for Brett Thompson, the 888 car. Let's see what time there is for him. I don't believe that was a representative time. I think he may be starting this race at the back of the pack. About 2 minutes left to go here in this session, so we should probably take a look at the championship points as we head off into this race here, because we have got some pretty compelling championship battles as we get into the end of this season. So we'll get things kicked off and rolling here in a few moments by taking a look at Spec 1, which is always the premier class, even though it's pretty much a chase down that's going on here at the moment. Felix Samoas is your championship points leader at 729 9 points. As his current tally, Tortolo is slotted in second with Guido Marzuki completing her top 3. The gap between Samoas and Tullo much bigger than the gap between Tullo and Marzuki. Joshua Justice and Parviner Ladar, your reigning Spec 2 champion, completes your top 5 here in Spec 1. And now we will look at Spec 2 as we have a pretty good championship battle to get our hands on here. I don't know why I spoke in that manner, but I did anyways. Brian Szynski, your current championship points leader over there, 453 points is his present tally. Stephen Westcott slotted in second at 427, only 5 in front of Brian Hansen in third. Not 5 in point, I'm not sure if that's a word that you can find in the English language. Jason Grider and Dan Szynski complete your top 5 in a very close Spec 2 category, so a lot to play for when it comes to that championship. And Lawrence Tyhouse slotted down at P16, actually a race winner last time out at VIR, so pretty fascinating to see that class continue to grow week after week. Jim Brewster is at the front of the Masters category, meanwhile sits on top of the board at 523 points. Kurt Nunes in second, Wayne Buttermore in third, Alan DeGassis and Andrew Love complete your top 5 in the Masters category. With the checkered flag out here in this qualifying session, we can take a look at the other podium building right behind the actual start-finish line here at Lédenon. Break out the WD-40, you can see Stevie Wright, David Fitzgerald, and York Monty complete your top 10 at the Masters points. Just I'm trying to think of whether it be like, actually it reminds me of this like hack video that I always see online of somebody deciding to pull out dents on their car just by like hitting a match, striking a match and lighting the back of some hot glue sticks, sticking it to the bumper and just ripping it out. I'm not sure what that would do to the paint, but that's neither here nor there. Guido Marzuki is going to start this race from the pole. That's his 4th pole thus far this season. He has been a master of qualifying here in Season 4 of 2025. Felix Samoa, your reigning champion, will join him on the front row. It's got to be Joshua Justice slotted in third. Alan DeGas is your Masters pole sitter in 4th. Michelle Lynn will start in 5th. Jim Brewster in 6th. It will be Chris Montgomery in P7. Andrew Love in P8. Dan Szynski got to start from the Spec 2 pole, run alongside his brother, Brian Szynski, rounding out your top 10.
Yeah, and then in 11th, we have Kurt Nunes, 12th, Nick Tullo in 13th, Stephen Westcott in 14th, Gary Kittle, 15th, Brian Hansen, 16th, Jason Grider in 17th, we have Scott Russell in 18th, we have Wayne Buttermore, 19th, we have Brent Thompson, Robin Howlett in 20th. I believe he is going to be a Spec 1 driver. We'll get him classed up here right away. And Russell Telker in 21st.
And so that is your field. 21 cars strong. Not a lot of them set, well, a lot of them set a qualifying time, but a smattering of some did not. And I wonder if that was down to just not wanting to set a time so you don't find yourself in the mid-pack at the start of this race. However, I think that may be not the best strategy in the world. If it were me, I would want to be as far away from all the chaos as I possibly can. So even a pit lane start, I wouldn't necessarily say is a bad call here. But let's go. Let's get up and rolling here for round number 9 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors. We got a very experienced front row. Felix Samoa and Guido Marzuki, race winners already this season, waiting for the green flag to come out, which it has now. And the drivers are on their way. Good start from Guido. Gonna try and lead him off, heading down the start finish straightaway into turn number 1. Felix Samoa slotted in P2 as side-by-side racing to go on right behind, involving Alan DeGassis and Joshua Justice. Looking at another fight between 2 series admins. That's Michelle Lynn and Jim Brewster battling for some of the spots inside the top 10, as everybody looks like they have gone through the first 3 turns surprisingly clean.
Yeah, looks like a pretty clean start so far here. You want to take it a little easy in the rain at first here. Try to get kind of acclimated to what it's going to feel like out there. Track can change quite a bit from session to session, so you want to feel it out a little bit. Probably stay off those curbs. Does look like curbs are going to be an issue today. It's definitely wet enough to slip out on a curb, and you can see them avoiding curbs here. A pretty line astern so far. Felix Samoa is definitely hounding Guido already here, so I have a feeling it's going to be this top 3, 4, 5 drivers here. Most likely nearing the end, but we shall see. There's many things that can happen between now and then, and yeah, we're not seeing too much side by side so far. Everybody playing ball pretty clean and pretty safe so far.
So as they head their way through the end of this lap, everybody has gone through this race and the start of it mostly clean. I think there has been some drama a little bit farther behind. Russ Telker and Robin Howlett did not take the start, so we're down to 19 drivers out there on the circuit, but that is still plenty of drivers on a somewhat small racetrack. In terms of the elevation change, turns throughout, and most certainly the rain, this track is going to pack a punch today.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you're fighting a couple things out there today. You're fighting the track, you're fighting the conditions, and you're fighting the competitors as well. And sometimes, you know, it's only one at a time. Sometimes it's all three happening to you at the same time, and you have to kind of be able to, on the fly, change what you're going to do. As we see Jim Brewster here looking up the inside. Pretty standard pass there. Michelle's going to facilitate that one, pretty much just let that one happen for now. There's really no point in putting too much defense up right there. It was going to happen, and then you just file back in, maybe see if you can grab a draft and move forward with Jim perhaps here, as well as he has a look at the back of Alan DeGassis. Just ahead of that is going to be Joshua Justice in third place. So they're still kind of in touch with the lead here, starting to kind of lose that lead pack for sure. Looks like maybe there's a bit more pace in the top three, but this is the point when you want to kind of try to figure out what your pack's going to be like, where you should be in that pack, make a bit of a plan, and then hopefully be able to execute it. And as you're saying, you know, these few pitfalls and stuff that could grab you here today, and we're definitely racing more than just your competitors out there.
Yeah, now this track feels like one that you'd find in a Mario Kart game, which I think is fitting considering there are going to be a lot of banana peels for these drivers to slip on. Probably some green, blue, and red shells that may catch out some of these racers as well. As speaking of, that was a huge slide right there in the back for Gary Kittle. He spins out of a decent spot up towards the top 15. Got to drop down to 18th as a result of all that and pick up a slowdown too. He was not alone in that, as I believe Nick Tullo also had a slide heading out of turn number 9. Turn 9, it's always an odd turn that, because the runoff area leading up into it is actually a little bit banked, so you do have to run off to the curb to try and keep the momentum rolling in these low-powered Formula Vs. But considering that it's a rain-soaked race, hitting any sort of painted areas, whether it be a curb or a line or anything of the sorts, is pretty much a recipe for out-and-out catastrophe.
Yeah, it really is. You know, like when I first started kind of racing in the rain around here, I did pretty good at first. Not here, but just in general in iRacing. We got a side-by-side here with Kurt Nunez, and I believe, is that Dan Stasinski in front? I believe that it is side-by-side. Oh, no, it's not actually. Sorry, that is... Oh, yeah, it is actually. It's Dan. Brian's up in front. Get a little bit confused there sometimes. I mean, Kurt Nunez is going to make that one happen up the inside there of Dan Stasinski. But yeah, actually, I completely lost my train of thought. I'm going to hand that over to you.
Oh, don't worry. It's happened to me with my ADHD. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've walked into the kitchen in my house, and I don't even remember why I went in there.
Oh,
There's
me too,
only
buddy.
2 words that pop into my head whenever I do that to myself. Alzheimer's disease. Guido Marzuki is leading this race right now. Felix Samoa is in second, with Joshua Justice completing her podium. Alan DeGassis holds on to the lead in the Masters class at the moment, with Brian Stasinski leading in Spec 2. Here's that battle up towards the front. They've really driven off into the sunset with a 5.5-second gap between the back of Josh Justice's car and the front of Alan DeGassis. Clearly a gap has formed there. Oh no, I think and there's a move from Felix Samoes on Guido. That's heading off through turn number 11. I believe wasn't expecting that, but he went for it anyways. Still got to be side by side as they head their way down the hill out of the 12 into 13 and 14 right about now. Felix Samoes has now jumped his way up into the race lead. Was just going to say that the commentator's jinx has come down on Michelle Lynn as she's dropped down like a stone thrown into a pond, slotted in 11th at the moment. So my Philadelphia citizenship has now been revoked.
Yeah, unfortunately there we do have a little bit of attrition, some incidents to get to here once we get a chance, but that was a pretty sneaky pass from Felix Samoes up the inside there. I'm not sure, I certainly wasn't ready for it. I doubt Guido was. That kind of just happened. It's once in a while something happens so smooth. It wasn't even like it was quick or really aggressive. It just all of a sudden he's there. Very smooth move. I'll have to go back, maybe have a look at that as well. But let's see if we can't catch up on a few incidents here. We'll start with Brent Thompson. I believe this was right at the beginning of the race here. Might be getting involved with Jason Grider here. Perhaps that's the next incident, but looks like maybe it might even just be an overslow here. But let's have a watch and see maybe what happened to Brent here at the beginning. And he is going to get into the back of Jason Grider. Actually kind of just missed the beginning of that. Let's have a quick peek here. So I think that's just going to be a misjudgment on Brent's Brent's part, unfortunately, there, and going to get tangled up right away at the beginning with Jason. We'll move on to Scott Russell here. Let you have a look at this one, see what happened.
Yeah, so that was contact heading down to turn number 1. This is off to the mid sector, I believe, heading into turn number 6. Goes for the dive in the heavy braking zone. Contact is made through it. He spins around. Thankfully, doesn't get clipped. I believe that was Brian Hansen right in tow that had to take evasive action to avoid making severe contact. But outside of that, just a small little spin. Certainly not ideal, but could have been a heck of a lot worse, as we see heading down for the bottom end of the circuit for Gary Kittle. This was the other moment that caused him to spin around a little bit earlier on. I thought it was going to be a spin before it, and then I was like, no, this is a moment with Gary Kittle that I called in live time as he spun off through turn number 9, has to get turned around, and here was a moment for Michelle that has taken her out of contention too.
Yeah, that was an interesting one there for Gary Kittle as well. Same corner here that we're seeing now. You can see Michelle just asking a little too much of it, just positioned the car a little bit strange on entry there, and then just dabbed the curb. You see Gary Kittle really, almost, and got a bit of the nose taken off there on rejoin, unfortunately, for Michelle Lynn. You see Gary Kittle there, looked like kind of hit that curb that Michelle just nipped. Unsettled the car a bit. Looked like he kind of had control of it, but the car was still sort of skating around, and he just ended up losing it kind of way after the fact there. But Michelle Lynn also going to lose it. Same spot. Really easy spot to lose it, I would imagine, in the rain. There's a lot of force on the car happening right there. It's sort of down. It's bowled out, so you can really, really push the car into that section, but it looks like just asked a little too much of the rear there, unfortunately.
Yeah, the problem with that section of the racetrack that Michelle lost it in, heading off through 8 into 9. It's so tough heading off through the downhill parts of this racetrack because the track falls away from you, the grip falls away too. That's also usually where the water tends to stay more than anything. When I was imagining what a rain race at Lédenon was going to be, I was imagining the downhill section like turn number 9, for instance, and the run-up heading into it, as pretty much just being a giant swimming pool that these Formula Vs had to skip over as if they were rocks skipping over a pond. But even then, that section is tricky enough in the dry where the grip falls away from you and it feels like you're going a million miles an hour in the downhill run up heading into it, but then you just feel no grip at all, and there's contact a little bit farther behind. That's Stephen Westcott. I think he may have gone tussled with Nick Tullow.
Yeah, looks like, again, you know, you were just speaking of that section there, and you kind of, there's a couple corners in this track that it really filters you down into one line, and that might be one of the biggest spots that it does that, and it looks to me that it's sort of filtered a bunch of cars right down into the same line at the same time here. This is not a place you want to try to go up the inside of someone generally. I'm not sure that's what's going to happen here. Maybe so, yeah. If you try to go up the inside of someone here, it always just seems to close away. I think probably because that corner tightens as the exit kind of progresses on, and you have to keep kind of tightening down on it. It makes a very hard proposition to stay off someone. And it's always going to be very, very slow for both involved trying to go up the inside there. Not a great move up the inside. Unfortunately got caught up, and just a bit of a fumbly moment there.
Yeah, so as much as it was clean at the very start, I think we've had some incidents sprinkled throughout this race. As now I'm wanting a cookie. Here's contact, not contact, it's racing going on between Scott Russell and Brian Hansen. See, we've seen so much drama throughout this race, and my brain auto-defaulted to that, but no, a nice move from Scott Russell on Brian Hansen. Now heading down into turn number 5, where he got the move done there, so that's a swaparoo for P12 out there on the circuit, but runs a little bit wide on exit. Do have to keep an eye on those track limits here at Lédenon, because although you have some rather expansive asphalt shoulders to help you out, it feels kind of similar in an odd sense to what they recently did to Laguna Seca, adding in some asphalt runoff area for about 5 to 10 feet on either side of the racetrack, and not too much else outside of that. Can be very easy just to try and use those limits a bit too hard, pick up a slowdown. That can happen very easily as you try and find as much speed to carry through these turns in these low-powered Vs.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good thing to mention there too. The low-powered Vs. Key word there for sure. You need lots of momentum in these things. That can kind of hurt you in these situations where you're sort of trying to keep as much speed as you possibly can. And of course, as we know, to keep as much speed as we can, or as you can, you need to be taking some curbs, and we're going to see, unfortunate there. I believe, who was that? That was Scott Russell, I believe, right in front of him there, just completely losing out on that curb, unfortunately. We get a little replay there. Just as I was going to say, to go fast with momentum, you need to widen up corners, and to do that, you need to use some curb, and the more and more you use the curb around here, the more and more dangerous it's going to get for you.
So unfortunately, the curb strike again, and this time Scott Russell in that number 22 car going to be affected. We'll have to load up that replay to see what it was like coming out of turn number 14 and just seeing that car skid around. He runs wide on the entry, hits the curb and hits the paint, and there we can see him slide. That could have been a heck of a lot worse. He kept it out of the barrier, locked up the wheels, which, I mean, granted, they have now been turned into rectangles as a result of that lockup, but again, could have been a heck of a lot worse for Scott Russell, now running in lucky number P13. But he does have some company back there. The gap between himself and Brian Hansen is not nearly as close as the gap between between Russell, I should say, and Brett Thompson. And right as I was going on that jib jab, it pretty much equaled out between those racers, as I think Brett Thompson had a slight sideways snap heading his way out of 6 and 7 as we jump to Michelle Lynn, pretty much running on an island of her own up towards the back end of the, near the back end of the top 10, I should say. The top of the field that isn't in the top 10. We'll call it the midfield, I think would probably be the best term to sum that up.
Somewhere in the
Dan
middle.
Szynski, yeah, the words are escaping me here.
Yeah, Dan Szynski here, our sponsor of today's race. Yeah, you're right. She's on a bit of an island here. Same with Dan. There's not really, probably maybe just in draft range, just out of draft range here for Dan, just out of draft range for Michelle, just out of draft range for the car in front of them. So everybody's kind of spacing out a little bit here. That's what's going to happen a lot of the time on tracks like this that are technical. Sometimes in the rain, it really is a leveler, and you're really going to kind of shake the field up. Although today it's pretty normal fare as far as where people are situated on the track. Maybe a few people out of place here, but I think we've been here enough times now that we're starting to learn this track. So people have their lines around here. The rain's going to throw a bit of a wrench into that gear, but maybe not quite as much in the V. Obviously, you're definitely worried about the curbs as we saw, and you're worried about slipping around as we saw, but not quite as much as you would be in something like an FF or, God forbid, when they finally bring rain for the SRFs. It's going to be a real handful out there, and it is. It's not easy necessarily in the Vs, but maybe a little easier than a higher powered car that's coming into corners a little faster. Oh, and we see one spin. That's Brian Szynski, our sponsor, unfortunately, out in the kitty litter. He's going to make sure he gets on track safely there. Michelle Lynn going to cruise by him, and he's back on safely here with no damage, but what a bummer. We'll have a look on board here when we can.
Yeah, so that's going to be music to the ears of Michelle, who jumps her way back up into the top 10 as a result of that, but it's not going to be music to the ears of our sponsor for today's broadcast, Brian Szynski, with the spin all through turn number 8. And I think there may have been some more drama, potentially. It's actually a battle. Scott Russell and Brian Hansen, they are duking it out big time in that battle for 12th. They have just now broken away. No, as I say that, as soon as I say they break up a gap, and there they go back side by side. It looks like Scott Russell has muscled his way back up into 12th. Hey, I'm a poet and I don't know it. He jumps his way back up to that spot as Brian Hansen going to slip back to 13th. Gotta be worried about that curb though, because the curb that he was about to hit was the one that we saw him slide off earlier. I think it started with the curb slide for Brian Hansen. Ran wide as he headed his way out of turn number 5 into the top of the circuit. Actually, no, that's through turn number 9 into 10 and 11. Contact nearly being made. Thankfully, with it being a Formula V race in the rain, speeds are slow enough whereby any sort of contact isn't really going to result in a massive accident. It's pretty much just, I don't know, the best way I could describe it is going to a water park, being on the lazy river and slowly bumping into somebody else's water tube.
Yeah, it's not exactly, no, you're right. It's not going to be at super high speed. That being said, we've seen some pretty wild crashes at low speed in these things. If you go to tire, you can get pretty much tiddlywinked up in the air and end up on your roof. We've seen some pretty violent accidents from a low speed connection there of tire to tire. But it looks like, today, maybe even with them a little bit slick too, you probably have a little bit less likelihood of the tire climbing the other tire. Perhaps, I'm not sure how well they model that. Tire-to-tire contact in the wet in this game, but you would think anyway that it wouldn't be quite quite as much as we watch here. Looks like Felix Samoa now up in first place. He's been holding it here for a while, since about the second lap. Joshua Justice going to get that one all wrong there going into the final corner. Guido's going to make up a ton of time and probably be able to get by him. As I was just about to say, Joshua Justice kind of commandingly holding off Guido. Made a pass a while ago that we must have missed here, and now he's going to relinquish that second place to Guido. So we caught that one just in time there. Guido going to take second over Josh Justice with a little mistake there.
Yeah, this battling up towards the north end of the field has been a little bit back and forth. We saw them packed in like sardines not too long ago. Then they start to spread out. Now they're back closed up in that battle for P2 and P3 between Marzuki and Justice, two main drivers involved in that dramatic finish at the other Ray Esports Club Racing League season opener for Group 3 just the other day here on SMB. Actually clipped that into a YouTube short where Guido was in a battle. It ended in tears, and then Josh was able to jump his way into that race lead right in the dying breaths of that event. So as that battle still goes on for a second, we jump to this one for pretty much half the field inside of the top 10. It's Alan DeGassis, Jim Brewster, Chris Montgomery, and Andrew Love all very close in this battle for 5th and beyond. And right now, Alan DeGassis holding on to that spot. Nice to note, we've got 3 Masters involved in this. 3 Masters and a Spec 1 racer in the form of Chris Montgomery, who, when we started covering this series here on SMB, actually raced in Spec 2, and so did Andrew Love. I heard this a little while ago from Mr. Charles Bochelle, and I will have to take his word for it because he has more experience in covering the Weekend Warriors than I am. I believe for a brief period of time, Andrew was in fact a Masters racer. Then they changed the rules. He wasn't grandfathered in, so he had to jump back to Spec 2, but he is now back in Masters and creating a very competitive Masters field all throughout the Weekend Warriors this season.
Yeah, it always is pretty competitive back there in the Masters. We have seen Masters drivers take wins. We've seen, I believe we've even seen, 2 or 3 Masters drivers in the top 5 a couple times, and that happens, often in many of the classes, but many of the different racing disciplines that we do. In the Ray Esports world there. You're going to see the Masters and the S2 and the S1 drivers all mixing up, and of course they are fighting for points out there. It doesn't really matter if you're an S2, as we're going to see Montgomery think a little better of that one, not going to go for that move, probably would have been a little bit spicy. And you just end up losing time if you would have tried to dive up the inside there. Probably would have got passed by Andrew Love, who is now part of this battle as well. So we're getting a little bit more fighting here. Just going to look up the inside slightly there again. Just kind of intimidating Jim Brewster. Going to be hard to intimidate Jim Brewster, him being usually the intimidator, not the intimidatee. He is up there holding on to it right now, Montgomery, and then Andrew Love. We'll have to keep an eye on this one. I have a feeling this one will be a good battle.
So Brewster holding on to that P5 spot, still in that championship hunt in that Masters category. So we'll have to see what he can do. He had a pretty disappointing run the last time we had a rain race here in the Formula V's. It was at Ultrasleben a couple of weeks ago. It was about a month ago, if my memory serves me correctly, which it most certainly isn't. But Jim Brewster had a pretty rough run in the last rain race that he had here. The series admin, usually not too big of a fan of rain, but we'll have to see what he can do here around this track, running strong at the moment. As we get into the final 10.5 minutes, Felix Samoa's driving off into the sunset with a 2.2 second gap. Will Rays as well. We haven't talked about this. Tortello not here this week. I believe he did say in the interview with me 1 week ago at VIR that he wasn't going to be here, but either way, that is going to be a big help to Felix Samoa's campaign to try and win back-to-back championships.
Yeah, absolutely. When your competitor doesn't show up, it makes things, it makes it about as easy as it can get for sure. And that's just going to mix things up a little bit for sure. He's a hard guy to beat, as we know. You don't want him behind you on the last lap because he will probably beat you by a fraction of a millisecond at the end there in some sort of smooth manner of some kind. As we got a pretty good train of cars here now catching up to Alan DeGassis. He is going to have to fight these drivers off now, and the pack is getting bigger. It looks like now we have a Kurt Nunez also in draft range here, so pretty big pack from 4th all the way back to 8th, and then Michelle Lynn again still on a bit of an island. Dan Szynski behind her as well, not quite in draft range yet. And in front as well, Felix Samoa is actually pulling a bit of a gap on Guido Marzucci now, about 2.1 behind, and Josh Justice just out of draft range from him as well. So that's kind of our battles we have going at the moment here. This one probably the spiciest one on track at the moment, and we'll keep an eye on it as much as we can here. Pretty line journey. You can see everybody taking just different lines, kind of searching for maybe where that speed's going to be, maybe get in the mirror of the competitor in front of you. Alan DeGasse is going to lose it a little bit coming into that compression. We've seen a few drivers do that now.
Yeah, we had a feeling that this was going to be a tough race, and that it most certainly has been for these racers throughout the field. But this battle that we have on screen is continuing to grow, with Kurt Nunez slowly but surely reeling in this pack, catching up, and maybe going to get involved in this battle sooner rather than later, as that was a pretty defensive maneuver from Alan DeGasse as they headed their way through 12 and 13. He runs a little bit wide on the exit of 14. This may be a spot to get a move done for one of these racers, as I think Andrew Love has fallen out. Something's going on with him. Kurt Nunez has been able to get past. Andrew Love has had a moment, not sure whether or not that was a slowdown or anything of the sorts, but either way, that's going to cause him to drop down to P8 and maybe even lose the draft of this pack. The draft probably not as strong here as it is at any other track. Throw rain in the midst, and the draft is basically the turbulence coming off the back of a mosquito flying around your room. As let's see what happened to Love. It was a sideways snap out of 12. Avoids the gravel trap just barely, but does not avoid losing out a spot.
Yeah, solid save there for sure. Really, really easy. Just looked like adhesion, kind of lost some adhesion there for a moment and was able to lock it down and keep it going here. Montgomery's still looking, trying to intimidate Jim Brewster here. I have a feeling there is definitely a pass in the works there. He's waiting for his moment, trying to set something up here, trying desperately to intimidate him into some kind of a mistake or something there. And like I said, going to be difficult to do to Jim for sure. He's not known, I don't think, for looking in his mirrors, worrying too much about what's going on behind him, worrying much more about what's going on in front of him, trying to get around Alan DeGasse here. It looks like he's going to get a really nice run here. He's found out a couple little secrets to that section of the course. I've been watching closely here, and he's one of the smoother drivers through that section as well as Montgomery.
Yes, I think Montgomery has a really good shot to either get one move or maybe even two moves done to jump his way up into the front of this pack. And hey, if there is some drama that goes on a little bit farther up the road, that could easily turn into a battle for the podium. Doesn't look like it, though, as the racers farther up the road have all spread out, with Guido at the front.
Oh, jeepers.
I missed something here.
We did miss something here. Let's go back and have a look at that. Felix Samoes has a crash on report here, so I have a feeling we're going to watch him fly by Felix Samoes sitting on the side of the road here.
Oh,
not
no.
the greatest cam.
Turn 9 strikes again.
It sure does, doesn't it? I'll get you a good replay here, Ron.
I was wondering, I was like, did I hallucinate? And like Guido just phased his way up to the front. Then I saw the lap time. I was like, nope, that was a slow lap from Samoes, heading down to turn number 9, and around he goes.
So again, you know, I could be wrong here. Maybe we'll have a chance to ask somebody at the end, but it looks like that happened so much farther back than when he actually crashed here. So let me see if we can't jump back to Felix Samoes. It looks like we kind of missed it, but he hits that first curb. The car sort of unsettles. It goes back in a nice straight line again, but you're still kind of trying to get on the brakes and slow the car down and get your line right into that apex, and I think that's what caught him out as well. So there's a big sort of unsettled moment, but the car, you know, it takes about good 3 seconds for the car to actually crash. Is what's happening.
Yeah, I always describe it as being a GT3 style spin, where you're basically spinning for what feels like forever, and it's only eventually your fate does fully get sealed. Looking good, has a sideways snap in there, and yeah, just eventually catches up. So I don't think that's exactly what went down, but that could certainly happen, as I think we have seen a decent amount of that thus far here in this race, with the spin through 9 really starting as a result of a sideways snap coming at turn number 8. Just one of those spins where you're sat in the cockpit going, nope, nope. Okay.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it better myself. You're kind of tripping over yourself. It's like a slow motion accident when you fall, and you know, it just seems to take forever to make it to the ground, and it looks silly and everybody laughs at you. That's sort of what it feels like when one of those happens, for sure. You're kind of tripping over yourself. If we're going to get a big intimidation move out of Chris Montgomery there, having a look up the inside of Jim Brewster, again, not flinching even a little bit with that one. Didn't even notice it, probably. I'm sure he noticed it, but not going to intimidate him at all. So I would imagine that he's going to try to make that move work at some point. We got about 4 minutes left here, so a couple more laps, maybe 2 more laps here, 2-3 more laps, and we should be able to see a pass, at least attempted here, a full-on attempt at a pass. I have a feeling he's going to go for it.
Yeah, so this battle that we've been keeping tabs on all throughout this race probably going to get intense. We'll have to keep our eyes on the battling up at the front to see whether or not Felix Simoes can close up that gap and get a move done to jump his way back up into the race lead. Now about a second separates the two of them as they head their way off into turn number 10 right about now. If Marzuki can hold on and get his second straight win, that would be a fantastic story. If Simoes can come back and have a spin and win here at Lédenon, that'd be a good story as well. Or who knows, maybe we're going to have 2 for 2 in Formula V races here on SMB. They're going to collide heading through the final chicane, and Josh Justice is going to have the come from behind victory and win after starting the final lap, probably about 8 seconds in tow.
Yeah, you never know, and that does sound like a typical V, you know, when things do go wrong, or when, you know, one little thing like that happens and just calamity all of a sudden. There's cars everywhere, everybody's passing. Oh, we're taking some risks going into this corner now, trying to keep that speed up and keep the competitors behind us. You know, this is when things start to get difficult because you really want to keep that rolling speed up, but at the same time, there's a car behind you and one in front of you, and you sort of have to play this game with the braking gas and just sort of hover over everything so that you don't, A, lose a bunch of speed, or B, go a little bit too quickly and overspeed it and bump your competitor or go off course, or one tiny little mistake where we're talking about millimeters, perhaps feet, or feet, perhaps millimeters at this point now, to get your braking and stuff correct in these last few laps. If you're going to make one of these passes happen, if you're going to stay in contention for the end, it's going to need to be, you're going to need to make it happen real soon here, and it's going to have to be, I think, I don't know. You know what? No, I'm not sure where it's going to happen yet. I'm going to hold off.
We're going to have razor-thin margins at the end of this race. I think that is fair to say. As speaking of razor-thin margins, it's gotten close up at the front once again. Half a second the gap now between Guido and Felix, but continues to fluctuate. Samoa has just clocked in the fastest lap of the race last time by as well. So this is the right time to peak if you are Felix Simoes. Last lap time by was a 146.3 compared to Guido in a 147.2. Look at that quick time from Felix. Even comparing their best laps of this race, Felix was about 0.3 of a second quicker than Guido in terms of Guido's fastest to Felix's. So this is the time to pass if you're Felix, as there we go. He's going to look for it on the exit of the final turn, heading around the outside, up the hill. Guido clipped the curb, got a bad exit, and here comes Samoa's. Contact made as they head their way down the start-finish straightaway. I think the white flag is in the air as well. One more lap of racing action here at Lédenon, and Felix Simoes trying to sweep around the outside to get the move done, and he makes it stick. Felix gets back up in front.
Yeah, you could really see the momentum that he was able to carry through that corner there. He was moving through that corner. There was no way that pass wasn't going to happen other than a block, perhaps. He almost did, actually, too. He almost was not able to make that pass happen just because there was a car in the position that he needed to kind of be using that momentum in, but was able to keep it and get by Guido here. So don't think he's going to have an answer for that at this point. He's already pulled out enough here that it's going to be very difficult, but you never know. One tiny little mistake, one little brake mistake here into that very difficult section. I believe it was down into, 9, 10, sort of 11 area there. Going to be a little bit difficult. He's going to make it through there. Now maybe one more difficult. And Guido's going to take a bit of a wider line, see if he can't cut back a bit. Not going to work out for him this time, though. So Felix Simoes is still holding on to first place, looking pretty good for him in the win here today.
It was a black flag for Scott Russell a little bit farther in the back. That's going to affect his finish at the end of this event, but never mind the battling behind, because we got this battle up at the front. Can Felix Samoas hold on and take another win? Will Guido be able to try and visit victory lane for the second week in a row? He runs wide out of 12, down the hill into 14 for the final time. Unless Guido has an amazing run and Samoas has a bad run, I think this is going to be Felix's win for the taking as they head their way on the start finish straightaway, though. Guido closing up that gap slowly but surely, reeling him in, but I don't think it's going to be enough as they come to the line, and it's going to be a win for Felix Samoas here at Lédenon.
Yep, not quite enough there. It looks like this pack broke up a little bit as well. We'll try to go back and see if we can't get a replay. Definitely, I would imagine Montgomery took a bit of a stab here at Jim Brewster, and that's why he's back a little bit farther. But no position changes there, so they're able to hold on to it. Alan DeGasse is holding on to that that fourth place. Jim Brewster holding on to fifth. Chris Montgomery, then Kurt Nunez and Andrew Love. Michelle Lynn still on a bit of an island there, but that group was really fun to watch there for a little bit. They all raced each other really clean, really respectful. No changing of positions, but some great racing.
Yeah, so some great battling all throughout. The racers kept it clean, even though we did have some drama throughout this. It could have been a heck of a lot worse here. Racing in the rain, singing in the rain here at Lédenon as we take a look at Scott Russell and some of the drama that's befallen him right at the very end. That's hanging down into turn number 14, hit the curb, and looks like he had it clean until he hit the painted stuff. There's the contact. I think that right there is what gave him the black flag. I think that very well could have done, unless that was the run up to the checkered flag, and that has just happened here. Either way, a slice of those. Scott Russell going to have his race not go the way that he wanted as he comes across the line in 14th. However, with that outstanding black flag, that'll probably shuffle him back down to P17, the last of the cars to grab the checkered flag at. They're on the road with Brett Thompson, Gary Kittle not finishing this race, and Robin Howlett and Russ Tilker not even taking the start. Unfortunate way for Scott Russell's race to end, as he was running very smooth throughout. But speaking of smooth, that was a pretty smooth race, all things considered. I was fully expecting us to see at least somebody go up in the air, but we did not, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, at least not yet. Anyway, we still do have a couple minutes here for somebody to get airborne, and I would imagine we're gonna see it. There is what is it? The pit lane? I bet you they're lining up for the pit lane to do that. I hope they are anyway, lining up to do this just wild pit lane around here. I don't know if it's like that in real life. If it is, they certainly need to fix it because yeah, it's pretty dangerous going into the pit lane there for sure. It looked like Scott Russell maybe in that move. You know, he kind of shot down the inside and sort of thought better of it. He's like, you know what, I'm just not going to, because he could have sort of forced it on his competitor there. He could have really turned the screws and tried to stay in front of him, and he kind of didn't. Maybe at the very end he sort of did, and he was able to actually hold out. But, oh yeah, here we go. Felix Samoas got some good speed. Oh, nose bonk. And about 540 there, I think.
There's got to be someone airborne going across our camera here soon. Oh, that was... Dan Szynski got caught up in the barriers. He got caught up in the wall as Wayne Buttermore just kind of patiently driving around the racetrack, minding his own business. I wonder if one of the other pit lane cams may potentially do us some favors here. Let's take a look at Dan Szynski.
Oh,
everybody had a wild ride. Yeah, this is perfect. Oh, Jackson. There's Samoas nose diving in. Oh, Kurt Nunez and Andrew Love all teeter-tottering their way down pit lane. I'm waiting for another driver to just pile in here. Up there. Oh, nice, my goodness. That was a violent impact. No. Andrew Love just going from one end of the pit lane to the other backwards.
Yeah, that was some dancing there for sure. Oh no, we got cut off there. Yeah, so anyway, that was, a decent race. Oh, here we go. Wayne Buttermore. No, looks like we missed it. And we still got smoke and people burning it down here. Somebody is inside the pace car. I believe that's Michelle. Yeah, they're having some fun at the end here. Always fun to burn them down at the end.
I don't know why. Every single time Andrew Love starts driving backwards, his car looks like it's going a million miles an hour. There is contact with himself and Wayne Buttermore in the pit lane. See, if this was during the race, we'd have a problem. But because it's afterwards and we're in the sim, we're fine. If you're in a Formula V and ran over some of those bumps on pit lane, you'd probably have to see your chiropractor after that. That does not sound very pleasant. I say that as somebody who had some pretty bad back pain that took him out of the carts. I would not be envious of that wild ride. Let's see what Guido did, heading his way onto pit lane. I have high hopes in Guido here. I'm hoping that he cooked with gas and didn't burn the whole kitchen down in the process.
Oh, it's looking good.
Yo!
Oh, yep, that was decent.
Oh, and there
he
goes
broke
the
our
camera.
cameras.
And again,
Nice. Very, very
parked up on the
nice.
barrier. It
Yep,
looked
it
like he
looks
was
like-
parked at an angle.
Oh. Yep, fun stuff. Well, let's see if we can't get to our results here as we watch them smoke it and burn it down in the pit lane here. See if we can't pull those up. We get the race, and we will get the results.
Yeah, let's see how it all shook out. Felix Samoas is your race winner at the end of today. Guido Morzuki is slotted in second, only 1.5 tenths behind, with Joshua Justice completing your podium in third. It's Alan DeGassis slotted in fourth, with Jim Brewster slotted in fifth. DeGassis winning in the Masters category. Chris Montgomery finishes this race in sixth. Kurt Nunez in seventh. Andrew Love finishes this race in 8th, with Michelle Lynn in 9th, and Dan Szynski completing your top 10.
Yeah, race sponsor Brian or Dan Szynski. Sorry, oh no, it was Brian. Was it Brian or Dan today?
It
Let me
was
put this
Brian.
thing up. It was Brian. Okay, good. Brian Szynski's our sponsor today. I believe it was Roxanne's Headers. He had a cool little logo there up at the top. I believe that's his Formula V he's sitting in there. Pretty cool stuff. In 12th, we have Brian Hansen. 13th, Jason Grider. 14th, Nick Tullo. 15th, Wayne Buttermore. 16th, Stefan Westcott. In 17th, we have Scott Russell. In 18th, we have Brent Thompson, Gary Kittle in 19th. In 20th, Robin Howlett. And Russell Telker is going to round out the field 17 laps down.
So those are your results at the end of today's race. Pretty good stuff throughout the field. They kept it clean. That could have been a very attrition-packed race. I'll have to check the dictionary to see if atrocious is actually a word. It sounds like a garnish for some sort of like French dish. So maybe it is fitting that I said that here and Lédenon. We're doing some drivers looking to have a chat with us here, and we've got things up and rolling by having a chat with our Spec 1 race winner of Felix Samoas, joining us here in the commentary booth right about now. Felix, welcome in. Congratulations on the win here at Lédenon. How was it out there singing in the rain?
Wet.
Imagine
was sorry, stupid joke. It was actually a fun race. Yeah, there was that unfortunate contact between Guido and me, but I mean, it's so easy to do, especially under these conditions. So, yeah, luckily we had a good gap for the second pack, and Joshua was. I mean, I haven't watched the replay yet, so I don't. He probably also lost some time with trying to avoid us. So he wasn't that far away from him, so I caught him quite easily. Then I had, I was controlling my distance to Guido around 2 seconds. I did a couple of mistakes and one big one that I spun. But I was able to catch Guido again, and then he had a mistake on coming into the last lap, which allowed me to go side by side with him. Yeah, and then I could pass him on the outside. And then it was just a matter of not doing more mistakes until the end of the race. And it turned out to be a fun race because although we were just in the end the two of us, but there was never a moment of relax. I had to be 100% focused all the race, so it turned out to be a fun race after all.
You know, it's fun from our perspective here in the broadcast booth as well, seeing that battle flare up between you and Guido right at the very end of that battle, right as y'all took the white flag, was pretty awesome to see too. I want to ask you though about driving these Formula Vs in the rain. Flashing my mind back a couple of seasons ago for the Week 13 V runoffs for the Weekend Warriors at Monza a couple of seasons ago. I remember that race in the rain, and you actually won it. So I want to ask whether or not you enjoy running these Formula V cars in the rain or not, because you seem to be pretty all right at it.
Yeah, I mean, fun fact, that was my first race with the Vs and the rain, that one in Monza. It was a very easy track also, so I got along with the car very well. But this track is very different. Monza, it's quite easy, to be honest, to race in the wet. This one is not, because on this track there is only one line. the racing line, and so there isn't much option to go out of the racing line to avoid the normal the rubber on the ground, which makes it very slippery in the rain. So it's an excess challenge, this track, because of that. But yeah, I like to drive them in the rain, and I can do all right when Thor is not around, because otherwise he would just go ahead and no one would catch him. Yeah, I like to drive this guy in the rain, yes.
See, I think Tor's a little bit. He's got an upper hand when it comes to racing in the rain, because he's originally from New England, which is usually rainy most times of the year. Then he moved to England, where it's usually rainy most times of the year, and he's also lived in Japan, where I'm pretty sure it does rain a decent amount as well, or at least can be very misty at certain points. So I think he might have a little bit more experience in that. But Felix, still an awesome win for you here, and you're second thus far this season. Must be feeling good heading off to Alton Park next time out.
Yeah, let's see how it goes. I like Alton Park. Yeah, let's see how it goes. But yeah, I'm having fun this championship. I mean, this will be Thor's. I don't think I have any chance, because when Thor's around, he always beats me. So my only chance of winning is when he's not here. Yeah, let's see how it goes.
We'll still hype up the championship battle, because that's what we gotta do on these broadcasts. But Felix, I'll give.
Yeah, sorry. I'll try my best, but yeah, Thor is just too good.
So yeah, I'll have to get in contact with some of the odd like model rocket people here in the city of Philadelphia and the area around it. Just ship off some rocket fuel to you to put in the Formula V's. That could maybe help as we get to the end. But Felix, I'll let you give any thanks or shout outs before we let you go and celebrate the win.
Yeah, as usual, everybody taking place in the race. The admins who keep the show running, and a special thanks to Dan, I believe, who is sponsoring the race today. So yeah, that's pretty much. And you guys there in the booth, of course. Always fun to watch the broadcast.
Yeah, thank you as well for joining us here in the booth, Felix. Always love to have a chat with you. Well done on the win, and looking forward to seeing you out there at Alton next time out.
Yeah.
And that right there was Felix Samoa as your race winner here at Lédenon today. And Josh, I will let you have work with another driver. Who do you want to have a chat with? Dan Szynski, our Spec 2 winner, who everybody keeps confusing him with Brian.
I made the comment to Michelle during practice that this track weather combo felt like one of the layers of hell. But you know what? I took a win, so maybe it's heaven. I don't know.
Yeah, it did look a little difficult out there for sure. I think I was muted for the intro of this here. But yes, it looked a little bit very, very wet out there and treacherous, staying off the curbs, maybe hard on the brakes in a few corners through, I believe it was like 9, 10, 11. Pretty difficult section there. But you guys managed to do it. It made it look fairly easy out there. But yeah, it sounds like it was a bit tough.
It was hectic. I think everybody kind of had the same mentality of, if I just stick on the track, I'll get some positions, which nobody got positions because everybody had that mentality. And it's it was a fun race. I enjoy racing in the rain. It's tough. This track in general is just tough, and then you throw the rain in it, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and I got one on Brian. This is my first win, so
nice. There you go. Yeah, you did too. Right on. Good job.
He with like 3-4 laps to go, he dropped the margin to like 1.5 seconds. And I thought, crap, he's gonna get me. And then the next time I looked down, it was 3.9. I was like, okay, I think I can
hold them off.
This. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, there's definitely fighting more than just your competitors out there today for sure. This track's not easy, and throw some rain into it makes it even harder for sure. That last corner and stuff, especially getting it slowed down. We saw a lot of attrition through that bowled out section as well, sort of the gravitron area there, taking some people out.
That's what got
today.
Brian.
Yeah,
for me to get around him. He's fun there. Yeah.
Really easy to do, eh? Just sort of some of the corners just sort of kind of filter you into one spot and sort of spit you out the other side. And It looked like kind of that's what happened to a few. But I believe we're headed to, is it Oran Park or Olton Park next week there,
I
Ron?
want to say it's Olton.
I think it's Olton Park. Olton Park International, I think, next week. And I like that place. How do you like that place?
I remember that I get that track confused, so I don't know if I'm thinking of the right one either. But I remember liking those. They're good classic English track. That's a good fit for the V's. So.
Yes, totally. Yeah, old school sports car track, sort of British sports car track. Really, really cool place, and I think it'll probably have some good racing as well. But taking the win today in S2, is there anybody you'd like to thank out there before we let you go?
Well, thanks to you guys. I always enjoy rewatching these, and even when I'm not racing, watching them with the kid.
Nice.
Thanks to Brian for the sponsor this week. Suck it, I beat you.
I got it.
And say hi to my wife and son at home, by which I mean upstairs, and to Brian and Dad and the rest of the family. Thank you.
Excellent. Right on, man. Well, great win today. Good driving. You were able to hold it together, take that S2 win, and we'll see you next week, man. Have a good week.
You too. Thanks.
Thank you.
And that right there was Dan Szynski, Respect 2 class winner here today. We also have a chat with series admin and overall very nice guy to have a chat with. It's Jim Brewster joining us now here in the broadcast booth. Jim, welcome in. It's P5 for you at the end of this race. Not getting struck with as many lightning strikes here in the rain as you did Oschersleben a couple of weeks ago. So how was it here at Lédenon?
Well, first of all, Josh Justice almost repeated the Wednesday Night Magic. Did you notice that? We were cheering when those guys tangled. They were 11 seconds ahead of us, and all of a sudden we noticed they were really close to us. As you see, us Masters put on a whale of a fight. I got ahead of Alan a while, and he kept messing up the bowl corner, but there was no way to get up around him. I don't know if you noticed how many times I was climbing all over him, coming up out of the bowl and up over that last hill. There's just no way to get past him. And then Chris started harassing me big time. And then so we had, a train of 5 of us. No, this is light years better. Last night was a little stinky. Guido ran away from us all, and then I sort of ran away in second, and we didn't have much for a fight. Where I think today, I hope it was put in a show. It felt like a really good show from where we were sitting.
See, there's certain points in time where I feel like Guido has a little bit of British in him just because he's so good at racing in the rain. I'm not sure what the deal is there, but that's just, there may be a theory there, that or I'm going to get my hind end kicked come time for the broadcast tomorrow here on SNB.
That's more likely.
But,
hey, just because Tor wasn't here to school us all on breathing underwater, so.
See, I made that joke in the interview with Felix earlier, saying that not only is he currently in the UK, I believe, he was also raised in New England. So that's a man that is familiar with rain, probably more than some meteorologists are. So that's probably the reason why he's so darn good at driving in the wet.
I'm excited to see also that Dan beat the Brian pair and got a win. That's pretty exciting too. So all in
he
all,
was stoked
really
for sure.
Yeah, and I'm really excited to see. I'll definitely be tuning in for the Liberty Bell to see how our Michelle faces up against that other Michelle. The other Michelle who got the anvil dropped on her Wednesday night.
Yeah, that's going to be pretty cool. I believe Michelle Squire is actually one of the teachers there in that series. That series is actually
she's been leading the practice sessions, according to Michelle. So.
Yeah, she is super, super fast. And that series is actually organized by the fine folks at the Philly region of the SCCA. So I'd love to see that little crossover.
Oh,
considering
cool.
I was with them for many, many moons. I still show up to some Philly region events when I just want to show up there and stand around like a specter, seeing the carts and the drivers I used to race against run out there, as I wonder why I even did for the longest time. But Jim, I want to ask you about Olton Park next time, Matt. That's going to be a pretty classic Formula V race, I feel.
Well, we went back to the chicanes, so it won't be the total draft fest. Before we run without the chicanes, it's really crazy. But with the chicanes, it'll separate us a little bit. But it's funny, we're getting good by this point. The other night, I was running some wet lines on this track in practice, and Guido was walking away, and Guido goes, "You just run the regular race line." I said, "But it's really sketchy." He goes, I said, "How are you doing that?" He goes, "What do you mean? I'm really good at this." And to be honest, at this point in the season, we're all getting really good at this. As you see, the racing just gets better and better.
Yeah,
the
we
field
can
gets
see
closer and closer. So anyway, so Olton Park, as long as we don't have any disasters against those tire bales or whatever they call those things, definitely evil and
The
planning on
concrete
selling
tire
some
barrels.
car parts. Right, there's those big, huge things. And then the last two are the classics, Okayama and Brands Hatch. Okayama, I think that's about my favorite track, and Brands is right up there too. And I'll finish off the season good. And I'm definitely going to be asking around about. We got to go to some new tracks next year. There's a lot of new tracks out there, and some old ones that we've forgotten about. So I'll definitely be polling everybody and seeing. We try to keep the pain as little that you don't have to go out and buy more than one or two tracks. So I'll be polling to see what everybody owns already. But we might be going to Algarve or something, maybe, or something like that.
Yeah.
Or I keep voting for Motegi, but I don't think anybody owns them.
Motegi's good.
So anyway, yeah, but I don't think anybody owns it, so everybody would have to buy it. So anyway, hey,
track.
Thanks for everything you guys do. Hi to Tam. I hope she's out there. I hope she enjoyed that. I hope that the slow motion of the race today, that you guys still captured the tension and the pucker factor. I mean, all us drivers, we're absolutely fried after this race. I mean, much more than most races. That, especially being as close in the rain, the line you have to get in the rain is so narrow and so perfect. It's just a whole different thing. I mean, I hate the concept of playing chess. This is as close as I ever want to get to playing chess. So, but I love this. So, anyway,
Nice.
Yeah.
Way more
Absolutely
exciting.
felt that, Jim. I love driving in the rain. I feel like if I played chess, I would probably lose in 2 moves, which I'm not even sure is actually possible to do
get
in
bored and
chess.
lose.
But I would figure out a way. But Jim, thank you for joining us here in the booth. Thank you for everything.
or you would take your thumb and your thumb finger and shoot the pieces across the room. Which to me is how most chess games should end.
Doink.
Yeah, pew. Yeah, that's exactly how
Maybe
it would go.
flick one into the guy's forehead and say, here's your queen, buddy.
Yeah,
in your
hey,
forehead.
catch this, bang. Yeah. That'd
like
be a
a
good way to go about it.
Okay, we've just pigeoned ourselves into a chess haters, but
Whoops.
hey, it was worth it. We have our
Yeah.
thing. Let them have their thing.
Yep.
We always like
See
to
you
have a
guys
good
next
time
week.
here on SMB. See
See you
Jim.
Wednesday
Have a
night
good one.
too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sounds good. All right, there was Jim Brewster, and I want to say that we at Slow Motion Broadcasting do not support the act of violently throwing chess pieces at your competitors whenever you are playing chess. Just want to cover our butts legally there. But Josh, that was a pretty darn good race. Despite the fact that it's in the rain at a track that's usually pretty difficult to drive, I think everybody not only mastered the challenge, but also mastered it enough to give us some pretty darn good racing throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Jim said there, it's not easy. You can see them. These cars they look a little bit slow on film and stuff, but when you're in there and your butt's a couple inches off the ground and there's drivers all around you and it's raining, and especially on a difficult course like this, you're gonna be sweating by the end for sure. Not an easy race out there today. Everybody did really, really well. He's right. Everybody is getting much, much better. Not that they weren't in the start, but you can see a marked improvement in everybody's driving and the way they're driving around each other and stuff. So really looking forward to these last 3 rounds. Okayama, Brands Hatch, Olton Park. Really good way to finish off the season and stuff there. So looking forward to it. I would imagine we're going to see a little more attrition, a little more good racing, and always some good finishes here in the V's.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of pandemonium as we get into the draft-heavy races, but nonetheless, hopefully all of you will be here to tune into the action on Slow Motion Broadcasting. And speaking of, we've got you covered pretty much around the week. Every single week, we have got a whole different batch of action to look forward to here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. Of course, tomorrow, have a doubleheader with the Formula Fords running at Oran Park and the Spec Racer Fords running at Imola. That'll be the action to look forward to here on SMB. And the not too far off future, I just realized that is set to say that starting at 2:45 in the morning, which is not correct, although if you want to tune into a broadcast at 2 o'clock in the morning Eastern time tomorrow morning, I am going to be on the air during then on the show on a different network, actually on a different page. It's going to be on I'll just say it's on the VCO Twitch channel for the Jimmy Broadbent charity race for mental health. I decided to sign up on that until 2 o'clock in the morning, which is horrifying considering I've got a broadcast at 12 noon about 10 hours after that. But that's the action to look forward to tomorrow afternoon. But around about the nighttime tomorrow, we have got the second race for the Liberty Bell League running at the Charlotte Roval. The MX-5's Michelle Lynn going to be out there on the racetrack for that. And then Tuesday, we have got round number 10, I believe it is, for the Sim Racers Group F4 Series. That'll be at Snetterton for another great race from that championship. Round number 5 for the Extreme Motorsports Ferrari Road and Oval Challenge going to be at IRP. SRG F3 going to be at Watkins Glen. And then next week, you'll be able to see the Formula V's run at Olton Park gives you a very good reason to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of the racing action. If you want to put your name on the Formula Fords, you can learn how to sponsor that wonderful series by joining the Slow Motion Broadcasting Discord server, getting in contact with Stevie Wright, and know how you can sponsor some amazing Formula Ford action here on Slow Motion Broadcasting. But after this broadcast here today for round number 9 of the Formula V Weekend Warriors here at Lédenon, that will just about do it. So for myself, Ron Maunz, and Josh Wilkie working the comms and the cams with me on today's show, I say thank you all so very much for tuning into the action on Slow Motion Broadcasting today, and we hope to see you all wherever it is in the not too distant future.